The first lie I told myself was that I only took the job for the money. The second lie was that the letters meant nothing. Both fell apart the moment I stepped into Whitmore Manor, where dust and silence held hands like old lovers too tired to let go. I was 25, broke, and trying to survive another harsh American winter. When I was hired as a part-time groundskeeper and occasional handyman for the sprawling, antique estate on the outskirts of Asheville, I thought it would be easy. Fix a few broken shutters, trim the roses, maybe chase away a raccoon or two. I didn't expect to stumble into a story older and braver than anything I had ever lived. The manor belonged to Adrian Whitmore, a man as elusive as a ghost rumor. Neighbors said he hardly came out during daylight. Some whispered he was depressed after losing someone. Others said he was simply too rich to care about the world outside his gates. All I knew was that he signed my checks with a precise, elegant handwriting, and that for the first week, I never saw him. The house itself was a maze of forgotten memories. On my 7th morning, while repairing a warped floorboard in the East Library, I found them. A small stack of envelopes tied with a faded blue ribbon, hidden beneath the loose plank. I almost put them back. Almost. Curiosity, that small dangerous spark, won. The first letter was dated 1989. The handwriting was beautiful, flowing, aching with a tenderness I couldn't ignore. But what struck me most wasn't the style, it was the confession. A young man writing to another, promising he would return after college, swearing their love could survive distance and silence alike. I sat there on the dusty floor, the morning light filtering through stained glass windows, and felt something tighten in my chest. These weren't just love letters. They were lifelines. By the 5th letter, I realized the writer had never mailed them. They were written to someone who lived here, someone who never knew, someone who might still be alive. The moment I heard footsteps behind me, I panicked. I shoved the letters into my jacket, dusted myself off, and turned. And that was the first time I saw Adrian Whitmore. He looked like a man carved from winter itself, tall and regal in a charcoal sweater, his pale eyes startling against the dim room. But there was softness too, the kind that didn't announce itself easily. The kind that lived in the curve of his mouth and the quiet way he carried his sadness. "You're the new groundskeeper," he said. His voice was calm, controlled. "Elias, isn't it?" "Yes, right. That's me." He nodded and turned as if to leave, but something made him pause. His gaze slid to the floorboard I'd been working on. "Find anything interesting?" he asked. For a terrifying second I thought he knew, but I shook my head. "Just rot. And bad nails." A ghost of a smile touched his lips, there and gone in less than a heartbeat. "That room eats memories," he murmured, almost to himself. I didn't know what that meant then. I would later. Days passed, and I kept the letters hidden in my room above the garage. I reread them at night, letting the words sink deeper than they should have. The writer was terrified, hopeful, reckless in the way only someone wildly in love could be. I felt like an intruder, and yet I couldn't stop. Something else happened too. Adrian started appearing more often, sometimes watching me from the balcony as I trimmed the hedges, sometimes joining me in the kitchen late at night, both of us reaching for the same mug or laughing quietly about the absurdity of the old plumbing. Sometimes he asked me questions, simple ones at first, then deeper. "Where did you grow up? Do you believe in second chances? Have you ever wanted something you weren't allowed to want?" His presence became a gravity I didn't know how to resist. And somewhere between those quiet interactions, I fell for a man who barely let the world touch him. But the letters burned in my pocket like secrets with teeth. One cold November evening, as wind clawed at the windows and the forest outside howled with the coming storm, Adrian found me again in the East Library. I was dusting shelves I had already dusted an hour earlier, trying to hide the fact that my heart was racing for reasons I refused to admit. He stepped into the room, his expression unreadable. The air shifted, charged, expectant. "Elias," he said softly, "there's something I need to tell you." And I knew somehow that the story in those letters wasn't finished. That maybe, just maybe, I was standing on the edge of a truth strong enough to break us both. I didn't breathe as Adrian stood there in the doorway, the stormlight flickering around him like a warning. His hands were shoved into his pockets, but he wasn't cold. He was bracing himself. "I wasn't honest with you," he said quietly. A dozen possibilities flashed in my mind, none of them good. I straightened, my heart pounding hard enough to hurt. "What do you mean?" He walked toward me slowly, as if unsure whether I would run. "About this house. About what happened here." I swallowed. "Adrian, if this is about your past, you don't have to tell me anything you're not ready." "But I do," he cut in, voice sharper now. "Because you matter more than you should." The words struck me like a blow. I had no idea what to do with them, so I stood there, frozen, waiting for the rest. He stopped a few feet away, too close, too far. His eyes were filled with something raw. "When I was young," he said, "I loved someone, loved him more than I've ever admitted out loud. And I lost him." My breath caught. The letters burned hot in my memory, almost painfully so. "Was he from here?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Adrian nodded once. "He lived in Asheville. His name was Daniel. We met at a music workshop when we were 17. He was everything. Brave. Too brave for me." He turned away, his shoulders tense. "We planned to run away together," he continued, voice wobbling as if the confession had teeth. "But I got scared. My family, they would have cut me off. In those days, they controlled every part of my life. Money, school, expectations. I told him I needed more time." "And what happened?" I asked. "He waited." Adrian exhaled shakily. "And I didn't show up." The room felt colder. "He left that night," Adrian said, "and never came back. I looked for him, but it was too late. He died months later, a car accident. I never told anyone. My parents hid it from me at first, then pretended it was for the best. That loving him was a phase." Silence settled between us like dust. I thought of the letters in my jacket. All that love and longing poured into words he never received. Words he wrote in secret, hoping Adrian would come back. My throat tightened painfully. "Adrian," I whispered, "Daniel wrote to you." He turned sharply, confusion flickering across his features. "What?" I reached into my jacket with trembling fingers. The ribbon was still there, faded, fragile. I held out the bundle of letters, my heart pounding as if I were offering him something dangerous. "I found these under the floorboards," I said. "I wasn't supposed to, but I read them. I'm sorry." His hands shook as he took them. For a long moment he didn't breathe. Then he pressed the letters to his chest and closed his eyes. A broken sound escaped him, small, devastated, but grateful. "I thought he stopped believing in us," he whispered. "All these years. I thought I ruined everything alone." I stepped closer, helpless against the urge to comfort him. "He never stopped," I said softly. "He loved you. You were the one he wrote for." Tears slipped down Adrian's face, quiet, trembling, the kind that came from wounds too old to hide. Without thinking, I reached out and touched his arm. He didn't pull away. He leaned into me, like a man who had been grieving alone for far too long. The storm outside roared. Inside, he finally let himself break. Minutes passed before he spoke again. "I'm sorry I've been distant," he murmured. "I didn't want to feel this again. And then you showed up laughing at broken gutters, arguing with raccoons, making this place feel alive for the first time in decades." He shook his head, almost smiling through the tears. "I didn't want to fall for you, but I did." The confession hit me like a warmth I'd been starving for. "Adrian," I whispered, "you're not the only one scared." He looked up at me, then really looked, and something new flickered in his eyes. Hope, fragile and trembling, but real. We stood there, close enough to feel the storm-heavy air between us. And for the first time, he stepped into that space. His hand found mine, hesitant but deliberate. When our fingers intertwined, something inside my chest clicked into place, like a door opening that had been sealed shut. "I don't want to lose another chance," he said. "You won't," I promised. His breath caught. "How do you know?" Because I'm not leaving. The storm outside began to fade, thunder rolling away into the distance. Adrian took a slow, steady breath and lifted the letters as if acknowledging both the past and the future they represented. Then stay, he whispered, and when I pulled him into my arms gently, carefully he melted against me like someone learning how to be held again. In the quiet aftermath of the storm, Whitmore Manor no longer felt haunted. Felt like a place choosing to heal. And maybe, finally, so were we. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.